We are live!
Hello!
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
How the hell are you?
Well, how the heck are you, buddy?
How are you, man?
Hey there, good morning.
How's it going?
Hey, everybody.
You ever cussed on this show?
I think that I may have said darn one time. Yeah. Cussing up a storm.
Yep.
Good morning!
Morning, Stella.
She just asked me if I'd ever cussed on the show, and I said, I think I said darn before.
You're so beautiful and just like
Morning.
Superman. Just an all-American good fella. And I'm definitely like Lois.
Ooh, I do like that Lois attitude.
Yeah.
You got some spunk in you.
He looks like Superman, too. You even got like the Superman curl.
Yeah, I got something going on. Terry, right before we went on, she was like, your hair. And then she proceeded to do this a bunch on my head. It was very, very cool.
Here's how I feel.
Potty mouth.
I love God and the F word.
Oh.
And they don't feel like they're separate things to me.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to express yourself in a certain way. And
It's just like my grandma. She was a wonderful grandmother and loved guns. They're not.
Wait, I can
separate
find some things that I love football.
Yep.
And jumping out of airplanes.
See, anyone can do it.
So is it something that's kind of like it's innocuous, and then something that's a little dangerous? Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like
Morning.
when I was being raised and like in the church and that sort of thing, there were a lot of rules. And so if you
Sure.
were one way, you couldn't also then be the other thing.
Yeah, you had to be one or the other.
Like you couldn't smoke cigarettes and love Jesus at the same time.
Although
But people did.
I used to, if we ever drove up late to church,
Yeah.
every now and then I would see a deacon out.
And what happened to your brain?
Post passing the offering plate,
Yeah.
I would see a deacon out, like, sneaking a smoke, and I'm like, what is even going on?
I thought that they really loved Jesus.
How in the world are they smoking right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it blew my brain. I was like
know.
confused, didn't know what was going on. I still can picture the one particular guy doing it, and I don't even know what his name is now, but he was like probably 50 years old and like tall and thin and just like leaning up against the church, just going to town.
Like James Dean.
Right.
But in the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yes,
He
exactly.
was a rebel without a cause.
Yeah.
I love my silent meditation, but I also love intense curse word sessions. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No judgment. No judgment.
Yes.
Do what you got to do. Well, good
what
morning.
does it say? It's like
I'll say good morning in a minute.
namaste, like inner peace, but also I'll take no shit. Like there's something like that kind of thing my sister sent me. It's that sort of idea. Like you get to be a whole person.
Yeah, sure.
You get to be a whole person.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus sat with prostitutes. I haven't done that one yet, but you know.
You ever sat with a prostitute?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
I haven't been that, and Jesus still, I feel like, really loves me.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah, Jesus loves you. Yeah.
That's what it
But
is.
the Bible tells you so.
That's how
Yeah.
that is. So I'm about to do yoga right after this. I'm in my yoga gear. And I still am like, it's like 4,000 degrees in here to me. Are you cold today?
Dude, okay, everybody. Since we talked about this yesterday morning,
Good morning.
I didn't conduct an experiment. I just am observing what was going on. So when I went and made coffee this morning, I also looked at our thermostat to see what the temperature is. And what do you think the temperature is in here?
79.
It is 66 degrees in here.
I feel attacked right now. I think
By temperature?
you're lying to me.
No. Speaking of lion, have you guys watched Tiger King? Anybody?
It is bananas.
B-A-N-A-N-A-S. It is bananas. That is a good term to describe what
That's
happens.
a great teaser, and then we should sing our song and then talk about it.
What, you mean, we're better when we come together
Morning show
with Dr. Teri Murphy.
Chris Murphy,
That's
aka
me.
Clark Kent, aka Superman, aka Chris Murphy.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you went back to, you said Chris Murphy and then you AKA'd me as Chris Murphy.
He is always wearing his super suit under every t-shirt he has on. You just can't tell.
I need my super suit.
What's it about? Well, let us tell you.
Oh, wow. So it's a Netflix, it's a 7-part Netflix documentary.
Oh, I was going to go metaphorical, but yeah, be literal. That's probably a better help.
Well, this is the benefit of having co-hosts is I can be very literal at times, and you can AKA me as Chris Murphy.
Picture,
even though that's my actual name.
A cast of 3 characters, all from different places in the United States, all with probably pretty significant trauma histories that never got them resolved, and found 3 very different ways to survive. But then after finding those ways to survive and make it in the world, 3 different, in some models, some might call them narcissists and histrionic personality disorders. Some others may call them tiger kings and queens of the United States, have all found that coming to the exotic animal illegal trade, making it legal by then breeding 180 of your own big cats, including ligers, which I didn't think were a real thing.
Yeah, I thought that was just something made up that I heard about in Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes,
That
it's a lion and a tiger, which apparently has a whole subset of people very upset about that. I didn't even know about it to be upset about it, but just picture this, and then all 3 of them fight with each other all the time. One, well, and this is in the previews, this isn't giving anything away.
Yeah, be careful because
one may have fed one's husband to a big cat. One has a 3-way marriage with 2 other men that I'm not so sure were gay before being with them, according to some of the things I'm reading online. And then the other guy has a harem and is a mystical PhD.
Yeah, he's got a doctorate in mystical studies, mystical
science?
arts, mystical magic, something like that. It's one of those things where the more you watch it, the more you kind of keep having to watch it because you like the cliffhangers are like, what is going on?
As a therapist, as a couples therapist in Music City here, I hear a lot of stuff. I feel like a lot of times, like, I don't know that I'm going to hear a lot of new things. I was very wrong. Because these are some real questions that I've turned and asked Chris during the show. Does 80 tigers seem excessive in one cage? I've asked him, where does one find tiny hawk hats? Why is there a wardrobe full of seasonal monkey attire?
Yes, an
These are
outfit
real
for
questions.
every season. Yeah.
And there's so many more. We need to would you like us to put together a little show?
Yeah, I think
put
we're
it in our
gonna need
IGTV,
to.
put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think maybe we should just record a little bit of what this has been like. Real questions we have asked watching this real show about real people. It is real. This is not fiction. This is a documentary. And let me just tell you, the most reasonable person in this entire series is the convicted, murderous, former cocaine dealer that the movie Scarface was loosely based on.
I don't know if it was loosely based on it, but they did call him Tony Montana, which is the character from Scarface.
So anyway,
because there was a lot of similarities.
Here's what's wonderful. Here's what's wonderful about this show. It is such a departure from regular life that it is full escape and full fantasy. And part of our grieving that we've been talking about this whole time is in self-care, you need times that you're able to escape and go to some other distant land. I wouldn't find it far from Narnia. I mean, it's the opposite end of the spectrum. Instead of like magic and redemption, it's like crocodiles and jail. But they're both magical in the way that it is. Didn't even know.
I have no idea.
By the way, also, did you know in every state, people have illegal big cats? Like there could be someone in our neighborhood right now nursing a cougar. And I don't mean like the older lady. Man, because that could be true too.
Yeah, well.
It's nursing a box.
You gotta do what you gotta do to stay happy.
What's that boxed wine, the big box? It's not sangria.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about Zanzia or something like that?
Yes, it's something like that. I think it is Zanzia.
A Zanzia rosé box. In this case, though, big cats.
Yeah,
I don't want
so
your big
Tiger
cat
King.
over here. That feels scary. I used to joke with my sister that I wanted to raise a lynx, but now that I've seen someone gets their whole appendage just sucked right off. I don't want that to happen.
Now you're starting to drift into giving too much away.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah, you need to zip it.
I'm gonna zip it. But here's what I can
But
tell
just
you.
watch it. Like if you've got a good 7 hours on hand today, you can knock it out and then report back tomorrow morning.
Let's do our check-in.
Yeah, so we've been doing a check-in for those of you who have not been with us for the last couple of days. We just go scale of 1 to 10, dealing with the pandemic. How you doing today? 10 is awesome, 1 is not so awesome. So how you feeling? How you feeling?
I had a really fun day yesterday. My mastermind got to meet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and if it's all over the board, you can give
Do
us a surf
surfer
emoji.
which is the one I do every single day. But I had a really good day yesterday at the mastermind. I dressed up in costumes. We had to dress up as superheroes during quarantine, and I have Chris actually does have a superhero costume, and I dressed up in it, and I was quarantine girl, and I think I'm gonna do some segments on that, which basically is, hey, is that a group of people huddling together? No, we're social isolating and staying
Quarantine
at home.
girl.
Quarantine girl supports that. Are you getting hard on yourself? Is someone judging you for the way that you're quarantining or grieving?
Quarantine
girl is here to push back on that crap. You're doing just fine.
Hey, you said crap. Good job.
I know. I worked
Cheers.
really hard on that. That's not what I said yesterday. So that made me feel really good. But on the other side of that, I didn't sleep well. I probably got 4 hours of sleep last night. I've had a good bit of insomnia. And I told you yesterday, like, I keep clenching my jaw. So I wake up, like, exhausted. And my jaws are going to be so defined at the end of this.
Yeah, I'm going to have some.
So I'll counter it with the sour cream and onion chips I'm eating, but it's just so clenched. I'm going to end up grinding my teeth and stuff. I'm going to end up having to get a mouth guard.
Yeah, you're going to need to do some like mouth guard and then some breathing exercises before bed to just lower the anxiety level. I don't even know if that'll help since it's like so subconscious.
This is the face I made. In case any of you missed
her
it.
mastermind group is not the same as the Come Together group. Mastermind group is something that she's doing with a group of other people.
Yeah, so
it's a business mastermind that she's in.
I'm part of a mastermind, which is like a year-long experience that I'm having where I have a business coach, and then there are 21 of us in this mastermind that are all entrepreneurs and creatives and growing our businesses, and we have courses and some fun things, and so it's just really wonderful, supportive. I'm so grateful for it right now. So grateful for it. And then I also have my own mastermind that actually I paused. Did you hear that?
I was scared you
I
spilled
paused it for a minute.
Again.
Just because with everything going on, the people that were in my mastermind had to put things on pause for a little bit. But it's 3 components. My mastermind that I do for others is 3 different components. It's a self-care component, like really helping you find the best way to love yourself really well, which is unique for every single person. The second is building a rock star community. So not just the community of the other people in my mastermind with you, like you all supporting each other, but also developing your community that you're going to build and that you're going to grow. People who need to hear your unique voice. And then the third part is your business, like whatever that business looks like for you. Your business could be being a stay-at-home parent. Your business could be being a therapist. I have one person who's looking at joining the mastermind in a couple of months, maybe even in May. What month is this?
This month is now April.
We're April, okay.
April 2.
Next month,
April
who
the 2nd.
is a personal trainer, and so she's building her gym practice. But it tends to be people who are helpers or who have a heart of a helper who come to this mastermind. So self, community, business, and I really do love it. If that's something you're interested in, you can shoot me an email or send me a message too. Yeah, it's really cool.
She's saying that her son wants a chinchilla. It's nothing like a tiger, but I just throw that out there. Yeah.
Exotic creatures. Now I'm getting cold.
I'm assuming that it's a slippery slope, so be careful with the animal requests. Because at least with these 3 people that are documented in the 7-part series, it's a slow step into you go chinchilla, and then maybe you go for out of nowhere you step up to a lynx, and then before you know it you've got tigers in your backyard. So.
I think it's for people who need adrenaline. Like there are a lot of former drug addicts, a lot of people who were raised in trauma. And if I'm really like, so this is what I'm trying not to do when I'm watching the show, but in the light of day, in the morning, when I have my therapist, Compassion Heart, sitting here with me and the shock has sort of settled, what I think is, oh, okay, these are trauma survivors who have found a community where they belong, where they still get to exercise this living on the edge of life and death without having to be strung out, except, I mean, there was a story about meth. So sometimes I think they go together, but I also think that it's like a group of misfits, people who never fit in anywhere else, find this sense of belonging too.
Yeah.
And we will do anything to belong, right? That's what cults are about. That's what gangs are about. That's what, if you were looking and like, it's the reason that people are refusing to social distance. Yes, I'm talking about that again. It's because belonging is a greater need than survival.
It's what clubs are about. It's what churches are about. There's so much around it about belonging, being with other people. So yeah, finding your tribe.
I mean, have you seen Titanic? People die to stay connected. You know, like.
Sorry. Yeah, have you guys seen that movie about that boat?
I don't want to spoil it, but it goes down. The boat goes down.
What goes down? Like a fight?
The boat.
It's going down for real.
It's going down for real.
Is that what that song is about? That song is about Titanic?
Yeah. All right, so
we're making some big leaps here, but I think
we've got some numbers. We've got some numbers.
Yeah, so
really good.
I think I'm at a solid 7 today. Not surfing. I feel pretty secure, pretty solid this morning.
Yes, 80 movies are all about that.
That is true. Yeah.
That's all it's about.
Yeah.
Have you seen Can't Buy Me Love? By the way, we're showing our children a catalog of all 80s and 90s movies, and they are here for it. In fact, the way that our daughter is processing all of this is in 2 ways. We've already told you how she was living as a doctor in Grey's Anatomy.
I don't know that we actually talked about this on the morning show.
Did we not talk about it?
I don't think so.
I think I talked about it when you were
on. Oh, maybe that's true.
On Anger Day.
Because I bounced 2 days ago.
That's okay. So, our daughter, Liv, she's 12, has been processing so far for the last 2.5 weeks by watching Grey's Anatomy and taking on the persona of an emergency room surgeon, saving lives, helping people out. She's even created a binder system. Have you seen the yellow bin in her room with all the binders?
She's got some charts.
She's made some charts.
That if you open it up, it's the cutest thing because sometimes she just maybe, I think, went through some filing cabinets and found some old, a title to a car.
She found our old title to a car we don't own anymore. She put that in there.
She also put
some medical documents.
Like a blank rental agreement.
Yes.
That I don't even know where that came from.
They all look very official. And then she printed off some fake actual medical charts.
Yeah. They all look pretty legit when you are just flipping through it. It's like, oh,
she'll flip through it and she'll be like, Mom, I need you to hand me the onion stat. And chop, chop, chop. It's really sweet. Well, last night, something different was happening. We've been playing a lot of games. I have to say, one of the things that I'm most grateful for that puts me at a 10 when I can stay present to it in the moment is I don't think our family of 4 has ever been so close and connected. Not since they were tiny and I was a stay-at-home parent for a good bit of that. We just all 4 were together so much. I have really loved that part. Yeah. All 4 of us are playing together every day, pretty much, if our son is awake for it. He slept until 7:30 p.m. yesterday. I'm just saying.
Well, he didn't go to bed until
if you're worried about
10
your
or 11.
parenting, listen, I'm just here to tell you.
We're all over the map.
We're unschooling. We're not even homeschooling. So anyway, yesterday she comes to us and she says, I made a game and I want to play it with you. And I think we shared with you all that we watched the new Jumanji, the one with The Rock. And who else is in it?
Kevin Hart,
Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Nick Jonas.
Yep.
And who's the guy we love from New Zealand?
Forget his name.
New Zealand.
Off the top of my head.
New Zealand.
I'll shout it out later if I remember it.
Yeah, if you're from New Zealand, we love him. Hebrew. So I did that was really
South
good.
African, that was Liverpoolian, none of it New Zealand.
I am from Southern Alabama. The fact that I can have any other kind of accent is just a miracle. But anyway, so Liv
horrible
came
at
to
accents,
us.
but I can recognize that was not it.
Fine. Do you want to do it?
No, I do not, because I'm horrible at them. But I'm just stating
the
fact.
Listen, pot, don't be talking to the kettle.
Well, I just want to make sure that all of our New Zealand listeners, or our South African listeners, or our Liverpool listeners, don't confuse the accent that you were trying to do with an honest attempt at an accent from...
Fair enough. You know what? Then I just won't do it anymore.
Nah.
Why don't you tell the story? Why don't we let Dad tell the story? Mom's going to pout.
I'll be very succinct. I'll be very firm in the way that I talk. This is Dad talking. She made a game.
Okay.
It was awesome.
I don't like it. All right, so here's
Done.
the deal. I love you. Here's the deal. So she came to us and she was like, okay, I made a game and I want all of us to play. And she has like envelopes and all this stuff. So she slides a piece of paper across and she reads out loud. And I took a video of it. I made her redo it again and took a video of it because I don't want to forget what she just did. But she said she read this whole poem that she had written about Jumanji, that we were going to be playing different characters in the game. And we got to choose our character and then we got a letter. So you chose Dr. Bravestone. I was Ruby
Dr. Smolder
Roundhouse.
Bravestone.
She was Shelley, and then James was Mouse. And so she gave us all these clues, and then we were reading these stories. And so there were 4 different stories that were all eerily similar to what we were going through.
Ooh, yeah.
And so here's what happened to Jumanji, the whole land of Jumanji. What she wrote was, a terrible virus has swept the land. It is called the Bud Light virus.
Not the coronavirus, but the
Bud Light virus.
Yeah.
Has swept the land, and people are stuck in the jungle, and people are dying, and people are sick, and only you can help. So
It was a blast.
And it was so fun.
And then it led into this great
it was a
scavenger hunt. Yeah.
I mean, it was in James's attic, his little rat's nest over there. It was everywhere. It was so fun. But the thing that I was thinking in the middle of all the fun is this is how kids process. Kids process.
Kind of bringing it around, Dr. Teri.
Thank you. Kids process their grief, their new situations through play. And she needed to take us through that. It also gives them a sense of control. It gives them a sense of mastery. Right, because none of us can actually fix what's really happening out there. But what we can do is we can be present to what is happening. We can talk about it. We can play our way through those sorts of things. And what's so cool is at the end of it, we all had to call out its name. You have to say, all 4 of us had to say Jumanji at the end, and everybody just screamed it at the top of our lungs and then laughed and like fell all over the couch. And the dog was running with us into every room. And I gotta tell you, that was like a 10 moment for me. And
yeah.
I haven't had a lot of like really 10 out of 10 moments. I mean, if you go to my Instagram story and you see me being quarantine girl on my big Zoom call with like 21 other high-level business entrepreneurs, that was also a 10 out of 10 moment. But man, it was really like cool. And then James got the process done too, and I feel like it helped me process.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the last couple of weeks we've been trying to do most evenings. We like gather dinner together, and then we watch a movie together. But she asked me yesterday afternoon. She goes, "Do you think that we can play a game tonight that I'm making instead of watching a movie?"
Yeah.
And so we got to do that, and
So
it just
sweet.
was out of nowhere. And she took the initiative, and it was really, as much as it was fun, it was really beautiful to see her.
It was. And I
Yeah.
thought, like, the kids are okay. You know, I'm grateful that our kids aren't sick right now. It's been a very hard transition to them not being able to play as much. But let me just say something to you too. Like, if you're having a hard time, if your kids are really struggling, it is okay for you to tell them, no, you cannot go outside and play. We had to say that to Liv, and she had a 24 hours where she was furious with us, with everyone in the
She's so
neighborhood.
antsy. It was like somebody had put her in a straitjacket and she couldn't get out.
It was. Well, it's true. She
Yeah.
really does have less freedom than she typically would have. But we just were gentle and kind and just held the boundary, and then she adjusted. You're the parent, and kids need a bigger, stronger, wise, kind other to really push back against. I'd rather her be mad at me and be safe than out of discomfort or like it's just too hard to deal with that, to let her run out and just do things as if none of this was actually happening. So you have the right to say no to your kids. Your house, your rules. Even if they're teens, you know, you get to have a say. I'm just going to say that out loud.
Well, I think that, what is the phrase? You need a secure base
In a safe haven.
and a safe haven
Yeah.
to operate in, for kids to feel like that they are in a place where they can thrive. And I think it's the truth with the adults as well.
Yeah. That's part of why everybody's not fine. All of our structure just got ripped up.
Yeah.
Everybody's.
Yeah. So her sense of calm and happiness involves a lot of people, being around a lot of friends.
Super extroverted.
Yeah, being able to go and do and explore. And then out of nowhere, she is confined to the house. And we keep having to tell her friends, no, we'll be playing soon, but not right now, from a distance. And that's like the opposite of her personality. So I don't blame her.
Yesterday's like one of the first days we didn't have kids come ring our doorbell.
Yeah.
Which is just, stay home. I love you. I love you so much. Stay home.
The neighborhood has seemed to calm down.
The last day or two.
Yeah.
But, it took like a law. It took an executive order from our governor to get people to stay home. But here's the thing. I think we're probably going to be in this until June, maybe July. So, let's just prepare our hearts. And then we can be pleasantly surprised if it's less than that. But I think we're going to be here for a minute.
Oh, I like that. Kind of like a Disney World queue line getting to a ride.
Right.
It's like if they tell you it's going to be an hour, but if it's only 45 minutes, you're like, hey, I cheated the system somehow. So if we prepare ourselves for June or July, but it's only May or something, it's like, oh, cool, all right. Yeah, I like
that's right. Okay, so let's talk about grief. Should we do that? What were you...
Yeah.
What?
No, she's saying that it's her granddaughter, and because they
Mama.
have a lot of similarities of loving to go. They love to go and they love to do.
It is like we're raising your mother. And I mean that in the best way. My mother-in-law is a lovely person. You guys need to meet her. And my daughter is just so similar. Life of the party, tender heart, love. She has never met a stranger. And it's been a really tough time, but she's adjusting really beautifully. It just looks so different. But we had to take that option completely off the table. If she even thought there was an option, or that she would be the one that could choose, that would make her so miserable.
Yeah. Well, it's like going back to the secure base and the safe haven. Yeah. Whether you're a kid or you're an adult, there's oftentimes you need that sense of structure to feel like everything is going to be okay. I know that for myself, if I don't have boundaries set up, whether they are imposed to me by a boss or by a professor or something like that, I don't really know where to go. So if the boundaries are too loose, or if I can't see them, I don't know where I can move and stop and do all that. But when I do know where the boundary is, sometimes I may feel some frustration that is something that's in my way, but at least I know where the boundaries are to be able to play in. So I think that the secure base and the safe haven, what's the book that comes from? The Whole Brain Child? Secure base, safe haven?
Well, it comes from a lot of places. It's based on attachment theory by John Bowlby. Attachment and Loss, volumes 1 and 2. Dan Siegel talks about it in The Whole Brain Child. Sue Johnson talks about it in Love Sense and in Hold Me Tight and Created for Connection, which is the Christian version of Hold Me Tight. By the way, P.S. highly recommend Hold Me Tight right now if you are stuck at home with a romantic partner.
Yeah.
But you can Google attachment theory or attachment science, secure base, safe haven, and get a plethora of information. But we could talk about it. We should talk about it. I want to start next week. Hey, this can just be a preview.
Ooh.
A preview. And I haven't even said this to Chris yet, so this is between all.
Next week on the Come Together Morning Show.
I like it. I thought what we need to talk about again is connecting with your partner, or it could even just be you really thinking about relationships, romantic relationships, just the way that you show up. So you don't have to be in a relationship for this to be a beneficial conversation. But the questions that I keep getting when I'm checking in with people, especially in this day and age, is romantic relationships have shifted so much. Like my sister's dating and she can't even be near her boyfriend right now because they live in different places. And when's the next time she's actually even going to get to see him? You know what I mean? So that's a huge shift. What do you do when you're in an involuntary long distance relationship? What do you do when all of a sudden you find that you're working from home, living together, that sort of thing? I mean, so here's an example. We are together like 24/7 now, even though we're both working from home, and we'll be laying right next to each other in bed. And sometimes I'll be like, I feel lonely. I really miss you. Like I want to connect more. And he's like, I'm right here. And it's happened in the opposite direction too, where you've been lonely. So what I want to talk about is in this new sort of experience that all of us are having in this new place, I want to talk about what is happening to relationships and how you can connect, different ways that you can find to have conversations with each other. That coffee makes me nervous when I'm looking at it.
I'm nervous as well,
Does it make y'all nervous?
Just keep seeing it shake around.
It's my Doctor Who mug. It's the TARDIS. Yay!
Hey!
So does that sound good? That's something that I've heard from folks, like DMs and messages that I'm getting have really been a lot about relationships and how relationships have shifted. Pop in a thumbs up if that's something that you do want. If that's not what you want and you really want something different, drop it in a comment, something that we can be talking about. The other thing is today is Thursday, and guess what that means?
Ask a Therapist Thursday!
It's Ask a Therapist Thursday in Instagram and my stories.
Hey, you remembered this week. Good job.
I know. That's 2 weeks in a row, which is 2 weeks more than usual.
Quite the streak you got going on.
I'm telling you, you can hop up into my stories in Instagram. My handle is at Dr. Teri Murphy, and you can ask me anything. And it's anonymous. It's just educational information only, but I can answer any question that you have there. And then I post your question and my responses, so you get a notification when I've answered your question, but it won't show your handle at the top of Instagram when I answer it. It'll just show the question you asked. So you're not gonna get outed for whatever your question is. What I find is whatever you're asking, the odds that someone else has the same question as you are very high. It just takes a lot of courage to be the one to ask.
Confidentiality, safety, privacy.
It's not confidential because we don't have a therapist-client relationship, but it is anonymous.
Anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant.
So let's talk about stages of grief.
Yeah, so we've gone through the first three. The first one was, wow.
Denial.
Yeah. No, it's not. No, it's not. I deny that is even a possibility. Denial, and then anger is number 2, which I wasn't there that day, but that's what this lady talked about.
Denial is sort of inactive.
Yeah.
And then we shift into activity, something you can do when you get angry.
Yeah. Which is, I think, part of bargaining as well, which is the number 3 stage of grief.
So these 2 stages are things you can do when you're starting to think, oh, this might be real, but there's still maybe something I can do to keep it from really impacting me or others. Like maybe I can still shift the outcome somehow.
Ooh, she'd love to discuss healthy boundaries.
Perfect. Love that.
Yeah. So number 4 today is...
That's hard to do. Have you ever tried to just put your pinky down?
Oh yeah, the European way of counting. Isn't that what that is?
I don't know.
That is tough.
It looks like I don't have... Look, I could be on Tiger King. I'm missing a finger.
Oh, grief. Number 4 is depression. And that's what we'll be talking about today.
Number 4. And then the last day, tomorrow, we'll talk about acceptance. So
acceptance / meaning making.
Yeah, that's right.
So depression, you know what? You were telling me a story about when you were like 13 or 14 and you had an incident, a near-death experience.
Oh yeah, it was.
And I thought that the description of the process that you went through in those seconds is kind of an apt
interesting.
description
I haven't really
of
thought about
the
that
stages
before.
of grief in a way. Because, would you like to quickly tell it, or would you like me to sum it up?
Yeah. So when I can't remember exactly how old I was. My parents were still together, so it would have had to have been at the latest 13 years old. So I think like 11 or 12. I was in junior high. Yeah, so I would have been 11 or 12. And we were on a youth group trip in the mountains somewhere. Gatlinburg, East Tennessee, something like that. So when we were there, we were on these, you could rent these rafts, like little black inner tubes.
Yeah.
And we were all tubing down some gentle sort of rapids, but if you've ever been in East Tennessee, it's very mountainy. You know, you're at the foothills and starting to get up into the Appalachian mountain range. And even though the Appalachians are not as sharp and steep as the Rockies, they're significant.
Oh, sure.
Deep rock, they're very old mountain range. We think it's a lot older than the Rocky Mountains. You remember that from 5th grade?
Yeah.
So when you're in any of the rivers and any of the streams, they're very rocky. And so depending on how much rain there is, the rapids could be really gentle or they could be pretty rough. Well, when we were there had been a good bit of rain, which is a good thing if you don't want to be riding into rough of waters because it raises the level of the water. However, there are also, because of all of those rocks, a lot of waterfalls. And so as we're all rafting and everything, like it's fun, we're having a good time, and people are going over these waterfalls, falling off their rafts, like everything. I cannot imagine being in charge of a bunch of junior high kids in this sort of a situation. Surely we didn't even sign waivers or anything. I don't know. But anyway, we went over this one waterfall that was actually pretty significant, probably just a 5 or 6 foot drop, which isn't huge if you've been whitewater rafting, but significant enough that when you tump out of your raft, you might not be able to just
Tump. I like it.
Well, again, Southern Alabama. So tump out of my raft. So as I went over, I fell, the waterfall came up over my head and pushed me all the way down under the water, and I lost my raft. And I'm a really good swimmer. I've been swimming since I was like a little kid. But I was right under the waterfall. Have you ever fallen off of anything? Like, have you been whitewater rafting, fallen under something like that? Well, so my natural instinct kicked in to try and just get a breath. But I was under the falls that were very heavy, right? And so I was being pushed down, trying to swim up, and water was going all down my throat. I couldn't get a breath, couldn't figure out what was happening. So denial initially, right? Like, I'll just get a breath. This is no big deal. And then I was pissed because what I could see above me under the water level, I could see a kid, probably 5 years old, something like that, squatting and looking over at me, watching me, not helping, not calling for an adult, not doing anything. For years, I couldn't understand what that was about until I had like an adult brain and could look back on what was happening. And I was so angry and no one was coming for me. And then I started to really panic. Like, nobody's coming. What's going on? Like, maybe if I can just get my head above the water. So now I've gone denial, anger, bargaining. If I can just get my head above the water and call out. But every time I would open my mouth to try and scream, more river water would just go down my throat. And I kept going and going. Like, I don't even know how long this went on. Maybe 10 minutes, which is a really long time to be wrestling and struggling. And I'm sure everybody had fallen off of everything. It had to have been chaos. And we only had one leader with us. We didn't even have any other parents, like 20 kids and one adult. And at some point I eventually was like, I guess I'm gonna die. Like, I don't think I'm actually gonna make it through this. Like, I was losing energy, seeing stars a little bit. I couldn't get a breath no matter what I was doing. I couldn't call out for help. And so I just let my body go. I just stopped fighting it. I just let it go. Which is like depression. I'm helpless. There's nothing I can do. What's the point of fighting anymore? I guess this is it. And so I just let go. And what ended up actually happening is the waterfall pushed me down and then just scooted me out down the river, and I just popped up near a riverbank. And my head just kind of came above the water, and I just crawled out and then just started crying and laying on the side of the river.
So
I lived. I didn't die.
Oh, I just thought when you were describing that the other day that like...
I never thought about it as the stages of grief.
Yeah, but like in that microcosm of those seconds that you were under the water, how fast your brain was working to try to figure things out, it is kind of a microcosm of these stages of grief, that like you fought against it, you denied that something was wrong, but then you couldn't figure it out and you got angry and tried even harder, and then and then eventually you gave up, and that's when things started to right itself through the course of the water flowing. And so I thought that kind of giving up is almost like depression.
It is.
Which is what we're talking about today, and how that, there's a lot of parallels there. Again, yours happened like over the course of, it's just like this fast moving thing. And so sometimes the stages of grief can last for days or weeks or months.
Years.
But there's some similarities that go on there, because you're in the early stages, you're fighting to right the wrong that you're now experiencing. And eventually you continue to find yourself kicking against a current or something that is keeping you down. So you finally just give up. And that is oftentimes what happens when things actually get a little better, is when you actually give up.
Let go. I know, if I hadn't done that, then I actually would have done more damage. It would have been worse. So I like to call this stage, what's the point? What's the point? Helplessness. Because what happens is when you're in denial and anger and bargaining, it still feels like you can impact or sway the outcome. That maybe it's not real, or I didn't hear it right, or maybe it's not so bad, or maybe I can soften the impact. You know, I got a little scared again yesterday just reading reports about when things are probably going to peak in our area, which is about 2 weeks from now. And I started to be like, okay, well then what we're going to do, because I go straight into bargaining again, like I'm in that stage. Okay, so we'll do this, and if we do this, then this will happen. So the if then is when you know you're in bargaining. Depression is okay. It really is as big of a deal as I thought. And kind of helpless. It's like the action and the doing of anger and bargaining give way to more of an inward focus. So this stage feels more like stillness and sadness. It is about loss, where you're really accepting the loss of the way that things were. If it's the death of a loved one, it's that our relationship is going to be different. I used to love them in their presence. Now I have to love them in their absence. And I don't know what to do with all of this love inside, right? Or the fear, or any of those things. If you've gotten a diagnosis, something like that, it's like, oh, my life is actually going to be different. I'm going to have to rest in a different way, or I'm going to have to care for myself in a different sort of way. If it is about this pandemic, it's, oh, I am going to be living at home without the social connection physically that I'm used to. This is very real. And you can even hear it right now. Can you feel the energy drop?
Oh, I could do it, yeah.
So the energy is lower. It's more internal. It's not as active. And it's like the only way you can develop a new normal about what you can do after this period of time is to go through this stage. It's a process of really, this is what we think of when we think of grief. Slow, sad, letting go. Sadness is about loss. It is sad to lose a way of life that we've always known. You know, and to think that when we do all come out of this, when we come back outside again, when we try to develop a different way of life, it's going to look different on the other side. I picture like a caterpillar going into a cocoon and turning into goo. Like, depression is the goo stage. You're not put back together in butterfly form yet. And it's hidden. It's like it's in the cocoon. And it's like, I'm sure the first time a caterpillar went into a cocoon, they were like, well, it's been a good run. I guess this is it. You know, it was a good life, and I can't imagine anything existing on the other side. If you've ever lost a loved one, someone that you really cared about, that's really the thing that we sort of ask is like, I don't know how I'm going to go on. I cannot picture a life without this person in it, or I cannot picture a life without the world being the way it was. And we can't. We're not there yet. None of us can yet picture what's going to be on the other side. And so that helpless sort of feeling, this letting go, that's what we're supposed to feel. This kind of depression is not mental illness. Can I just say that? This depression is normal, typical, and completely adaptive. Sadness is an adaptive emotion, meaning there's a need there that you're meeting, that this is part of growth, this is part of process. Right now, if you have underlying mental illness or mental conditions, it can exacerbate those.
Yeah.
If you've already got depression and then you hit this sort of experience, it can actually trigger depressive episodes or anxious episodes. They can go hand in hand. But this is normal. And everybody grieves a little bit differently, but this is just part of the process too.
Can I say also that this would probably tend to feel like the most exhausting stage?
Yeah. It's very exhausting.
And it is.
You might sleep a lot, or have insomnia, wanting to sleep a lot.
It certainly is, but it also is in response to coming out of the last stages where you're fighting so much to try to change the reality that you're now facing.
Yeah.
Because in the earlier stages of anger and bargaining, you're trying to figure out any way to let things go back to their normal way.
Yes, you're trying to go back in those
right.
3 stages.
And so,
or soften the blow.
So when you finally do kind of give up and that depressive feeling sets in, it may be exhausting because not only are you having to deal with the reality of the new normal, but you're also having to deal with all of the struggling and all of the kicking and screaming that you've been doing leading up to this point, which is going to be a time where you're going to need to rest more. So if you find yourself in there, be kind to yourself. If you notice that there's some other people that are really kicking and screaming right now, but they're moving through that grief process, know that they may be entering into a time where they're going to need some more space. They're going to need some more rest, and so give that freedom to others as well.
They're not always linear. No. They're more like,
well said. Yeah.
They can all happen at the same time, and you can be accepting part of things and then newly experiencing grief of other things. So like, I think our daughter, for an example, right now she's in a bit of acceptance, but I guarantee if this lasts, she's going to have new grief, right? Her summer camp is canceled. We got to tell her about that. And her acting classes. No, but I'm sure that it's going to be. We need to have a conversation so she gets to process. Yeah. And you can be in different levels of grief at different times, and people grieve really differently. And grief is really weird. It's just weird. But we all do it. But if you don't, if you're resisting letting go, going into it, really dropping into your grief experience, it just usually tends to prolong it. Because it's going to end up happening, or you're going to end up coming out of your house hoping that everything will be the way that it was, and then that's when your grief process will start, because all the tangibles around you will be different. And sometimes that's what it takes. That's okay, right? So I like what you said on Monday. We are not going to engage in the practice of judging other people for how they grieve or what stage they're in. The only caveat to that I will say is if their grief negatively impacts other human beings, that's when it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? So someone else's denial causes safety issues and risks. Like I just read a story this morning. I'm checking news once a day. I read a story this morning that there were 70 spring breakers who chartered a plane into Mexico even after there was a stay-at-home order, and over half of them ended up testing positive for COVID, and then they had spread back all over and caused all manner of havoc. So if that's what's going on, not okay. When your grief ends up negatively impacting others, it's not all right. Like even in our house, you get to be angry, you get to feel all your feelings, but you're not going to project it and destroy someone else just to get your anger out. You got to also then find healthy ways to deal with it. Emotions, not a choice. Your behaviors related to those emotions, you got a choice.
Yeah.
Right? Viktor Frankl said, between a stimulus and a response is a space. And in that space, you have a choice of how you behave. And what therapy does, what mindfulness does, what prayer does, what meditation does, is it widens the space. Therapy is really trying to do that, widening your window of tolerance to feel something and then to sit with it long enough that you have a choice about what you do with it. So grief would be the same, right? So to invite yourself in to really just notice where you are and what's happening for you, and then to choose some behaviors to care for yourself the best way that you can in this moment is going to be the best thing that you can do. Right now, it could be watching an episode of Tiger King. When I finish with this show, I've had a routine in the morning that has been so life-giving to me. So we stop this, we go sit in our chairs next to our fireplace, have coffee, and then we both set a timer and we meditate. And then I journal. You do different things depending on what day it is. And then I read. So for me, it's like inhale, exhale. Take in love, take in presence, community, that sort of thing. And then breathe out in writing. Yeah. Breathe out in speaking. Breathe out and listen too. Just really listen. Some days I just want to listen. Yeah. So if you're in this depression stage, what is it that you need? You need space, you need time, you need boundaries. You need to be able to say no if going and hopping on a FaceTime chat with a bunch of people is gonna jar your experience. You get to say, hey, I'm in a bit of a low point, or I'm in a grief part, or I just don't want to. You don't even have to explain yourself. You can just say, next week would really be better. We said that to some friends this week who wanted to meet this week. And I was just saying, I don't have the energy or the emotional bandwidth or capacity to really meet with anybody else this week, but I could do it next week. I think that would really work. And so just being able to say that out loud is really helpful. You have to take care of yourself the best way that you can. And you don't need my permission to do that. You just need your own permission, really, to be able to do that.
I will say as well that if you are dealing with other people that are going through these phases, again, just be patient, because people are doing it at different levels. And again, to try not to judge if somebody does cancel on you or something like that as something that's a personal thing.
Yeah.
But for me, to risk saying that out loud is a big deal. And so, because I self-repress a lot in order to try to make you happy, sort of thing. And so if I'm actually saying it, I hope that I can be accepted in that moment. And so for all of us out there, that's what we're all looking for, is that the decisions that we make is, again, as you're saying, if they're not negatively impacting other people, especially on a large scale, that like getting together and still playing basketball and then going back to their homes and those kinds of things, how that could be a public health risk. There could be some things where you have to put your foot down.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
And listen, just because you're home 24/7 does not mean people have the right to you 24/7. I learned that really from other people who worked from home before all of this, that people don't just get to have access to you 24 hours a day. Not your friends, not your people that you're working with, any of that. You still get to have some sort of semblance of structure. You get to set your boundaries, right? And so for me, it feels like people are calling and texting even more than we were before, which makes a lot of sense because you can't just physically sort of check in or see each other. And I'm still as much of an introvert as I was before, and so I still have to have boundaries. So I have actually had some pushback from friends who have literally said with words, it's not like you're doing anything else. And I'm like, this is actually harder for me, because when I'm doing online therapy, I love it. I've been so pleasantly surprised by how effective it is for clients, but it takes more energy for me to do it. Number one, it's new. And number two, I'm holding technology and having to use more words because I can't physically feel what's happening in the room. So it's a different skill set that I'm not as practiced at. So I'm actually more exhausted in some ways working from home, as much as I love the opportunity and I'm so grateful for it. Just be honest, I have less energy and I'm already anxious and not sleeping as well. So you do not have to make yourself available 24/7 just because of this shift in the way that things are. You still get to have a say about what life looks like.
Yeah. So with depression, it is a part of the grief process that we need to also hold space for, and also hold space for other people experiencing. And so again, as I've kind of relayed every day on here, is just continue to give some grace to yourself in wherever you're at, and then also have grace for others in those moments. Have some empathy for other people, and also realize that some people are going to not understand this as well, and so they may be misattributing what they're feeling and taking it out on you. It's just have that little bit of compassion for others as well. And if you mess up, like we've talked about here, doing something incorrect doesn't make you an incorrect person. It makes you a person who did something incorrectly.
Like guilt, we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah, and so if you lash out at a loved one or your children or something like that in a moment, that doesn't make you bad in that moment. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes something that you may need to apologize for. But just give yourself some grace, give yourself some compassion, and then have that for others as well, because we're all in a new normal and we're all trying to figure this out every day.
Couple things then. If you want to ask me anything about mental health, relationships, about grief, about working from home, about therapy, just in general, about my favorite color. It doesn't matter about what Chris's darkest secret is. Just hop over to Instagram, Dr. Teri Murphy, and in my stories, right as soon as we end this, I'm going to put in my stories a little question box, and you can ask me anything. And your answer will be posted, or your question will be posted anonymously, and then I'll answer that for everyone to be able to see. And then the other thing is, come back and hang out with us all next week. And maybe, I think it's going to take longer than 1 week, but we're going to take a deep dive into talking about relationships, boundaries, how to connect with each other, whether you are single or currently in a relationship or in a long distance relationship, whether you're physically in the same place or you're geographically separated. What in the world, see how I didn't cuss?
I love it, yeah.
What in the world do we do, right, to stay connected with ourselves, with our significant others in this kind of time? And we're going to give you really specific tips and hints around that too.
Love that.
Is there anything else that we need to remind people of today?
Just go love each other well today. You got this.
Okay, fine.
One day at a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll be right here. If you want to join our community, it's facebook.com/groups/come-together-group. And we hope to see you there. Tomorrow we will be talking about acceptance.
Ooh, and meaning making. I just keep having to say that because I don't remember it until you say acceptance. And I'm like, oh yeah, meaning making. And I feel like it sounds smart when I can actually say it. And I go,
I love it. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful Thursday. We love you.
We're better when we come together. So let's come back together tomorrow morning. And if you know someone else that would benefit from this, reach out to them and let them know that we do this every morning, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Central Time. So we can't wait to see you back here tomorrow.
I've been uploading the show to YouTube as well. So you can always go and share a link from there if there's somebody who wants to see it, but they're not on Facebook or Instagram.
Love it.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a good day.